It's the most adaptable, violent, explosive, and smart Cardinals podcast out there. What's going on? It's Bo Brock, Saul Bookman, PHNX Cardinals. No Johnny Venerable. He's at the happiest
He's on the
place.
teacups,
yeah,
baby.
He's on the teacups. He's probably just waiting in line. His life is just waiting in line unless he knows how to work that Fast app for Disneyland these days. He's out there with the fam. Much deserved time off. We don't take any days off. We're kind of the Belichickian mindset here. Saul Bookman just straight off of PHNX Suns right here on PHNX Cardinals, of course, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, the #1 sportsbook app in America. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. You got great stuff coming your way about Suns, Yotes, D-backs. They just had pitchers and catchers report. Of course, the Arizona Cardinals, as Jonathan Gannon begins to build his staff. And the news broke right before this show, Saul Bookman, before I get your thoughts on Gannon, that Eric Bieniemy is poised to become the next offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. Bieniemy choosing to ride with Daniel Snyder and Sam Howell and Riverboat Ron Rivera in Washington instead of, we got no reports that Bieniemy was going to be requested here by the Cardinals, but was it a missed opportunity to pair him with Kyler Murray?
Yeah, potentially. Again, listen, if there's no interest, if you're building your own franchise, and Bo, you know, like if you're ever put in charge of a whole organization, or at least, you're putting your team together, you already have your mind made up on who you would like to target first, right? And since there was no pre-established relationship with Bieniemy, I find it hard to believe Gannon being truly interested in trying to seek him out. It probably would have been worthwhile for him at least to have a phone call with him,
right?
But I'm not really spinning my wheels on that. It would have been nice. On paper, it would have been nice. But honestly, I don't give a shit about on paper right now. And that will lead us to our Jonathan Gannon discussion.
That's right. I think it would take your new head coach swallowing some serious pride to give a call to the offensive coordinator that apparently found one of your big tendencies on defense that exposed you in the second half, and Eric Bieniemy and what the Chiefs were able to accomplish there. Some serious pride swallowing by Jonathan Gannon. But let's get to your thoughts on the hire, because we didn't get it. I know you're kind of a Gannon fan. What did you think about the introductory press conference yesterday?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a Gannon fan, but what I will say is listen, folks, we have no idea. We don't have any idea what this guy's going to be all about. Like, I know everybody's trying to shit on him for the last, the second half of the Super Bowl and for the weak schedule that the Eagles played, but he had talent. He did the most he could with that talent. He put him in a position to succeed. He put them in a position to succeed again in the Super Bowl. You had two kind of flukish things happen. You had your quarterback just drop the ball flat out, and that gave up 7 points. And then you had a massive punt return that returned the ball all the way down to the 5-yard line and put the Chiefs in a prime position to be able to use that V cut to Sky Moore and whatnot. So I'm not stressing that. What I like is that he's engaged. He seems like he's energetic. He seems like he's really he wants to make it known that things are about to change. And I think it's for the better. I think what Cliff did to this franchise and Keim did to this franchise is they kind of put it in a little bit of a malaise and just kind of it's just kind of there.
Right.
And there was no spark, and there was no, I don't even feel like even the wins and losses were really that high or that low. I think like everything was almost just the same. And that's a horrible place to be,
right?
For not only a player, but for a coaching staff and for us fans. So I like the fact that he's engaged and he's trying to win the press conference. And I think a lot of people said that they thought he won the press conference. I don't give a shit about winning the press conference, because that doesn't mean anything in the win and or loss column. I want to see results. And I have, high hopes that this guy's going to be able to come in here and establish his own identity with this team and succeed.
He definitely brings some juice. He's got a scouting background that I want to get into here. We're going to look at the 3rd overall pick. One team has kind of emerged as a little bit thirsty for that pick, potentially trading up. We'll tell you who that is later in the show. But, as far as what Gannon brought to the press conference, he immediately was on the defensive and talking about how great Kyler Murray is and can be and getting him back on track. It was from the new brain trust of the Arizona Cardinals, Monti Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon and Michael Bidwell that stood out to him, that he wants to be a guy that's going to get Kyler Murray back on track. He joined NFL Network yesterday, and this was just kind of a tweet that would kind of echo what he was saying on NFL Network about how he's going to approach Kyler Murray, similarly like he approached Jalen Hurts in Eagles practice. This is Mike Garafolo, NFL insider, saying that on NFL Now, Jonathan Gannon's plans to make things tough on Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray in practice is much of the same as the Eagles and Nick Sirianni had thrown things at Jalen Hurts during the week to make him better on Sundays. Pretty interesting stuff, and I completely agree with that. I mean, gone are the days of country club training camp and practices for this organization. And it's going to be the best for Kyler Murray. You saw it was the best for Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a better leader in the NFL. And that's something that Kyler Murray on his own is going to have to kind of strive towards. And even on his, he could put his best efforts forward and not get to Hurts' level. And that's what we're not looking for here. But the fact that you can challenge him day in and day out in practice is going to make him a better quarterback.
1,000,000%. I couldn't have said it better myself. Kyler Murray has lost his way in the NFL for the last year and a half, and specifically fundamental wise. And I think that's really what everything should be geared around. And I honestly, like we talked about at length, and we don't need to go into detail again about this, but I just did not feel like the play calling really matched up with what Kyler Murray's skill sets could and should be. And I think what's going to happen is whoever the offensive coordinator comes in and whatever he tries to do, they're going to really seriously sit down, find out the things that Kyler does very well, find out the things that he doesn't do very well. And then in the middle of that, they're going to try and figure out some other things that he does and does not do well in practice, in training camp, to figure out, okay, can he go under center? Right. Is he able to be able to raise his level? And does this help him out as a quarterback as we move forward? I just don't feel like Cliff challenged this kid enough. And I'm not going to put that on Kyler. And I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about that. I don't care. I believe in Kyler. I really do. I think he lost a little bit with his ball this year. I don't know why. He was a little inaccurate. And I also feel like it was a fundamental reason why. Like, his footwork was trash this year. It was not good. He was fading back too many times. Like, these are simple things that are correctable. We saw it a year ago when he was an MVP candidate. It didn't just disappear because he just forgot. He established some bad habits and nobody corrected him.
Right. It was, I think, enabling is a word that people like to throw around. It's like parents who kind of let their kids kind of coast by and don't challenge them to be better individuals and strive for higher goals. And I think what we saw for the first 3 seasons with Kyler Murray was good, right? But we knew that he had this extra gear that I don't think that Cliff Kingsbury had the ability to tap into, because he wasn't willing to do that tough love. He wasn't willing to really challenge Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray, like, if you're ever in that situation, it's like, you're not going to, I mean, great players do, great people, leaders want to be like, hey, challenge me, put me, make me uncomfortable and challenge me so I can be a better person. But when you come into the league and you've got somebody that kind of enabled you, like Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, do you really want to rattle the cage to where you're just going to make life hard on yourself when you know, things have gone pretty well for Kyler Murray, when he's just kind of had a coach that just rolled the footballs out on the field and said, hey, just go play ball, do what you do. When you've got a guy that can kind of merge having that relationship and being relatable to Kyler Murray, and you saw it a couple times via the team social media, like on video, like him, just his interaction with the Kyler, like he's obviously got a good relationship right now, but when he kind of starts to press him, I think Kyler Murray is going to appreciate him even more than he ever appreciated Cliff Kingsbury, who was always good to him. I don't think he'll ever deny that, but he's like, things weren't good for the Cardinals from a play calling standpoint. And it was a large part of that is on Cliff Kingsbury's shoulders. Yeah.
So, I mean, great players, as you said, want to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes that accountability for you to understand that you need to raise your level of play. And I think Kyler has not had that for quite some time. And so now we're in that mode. And I think what Gannon did is he's building some points within Kyler, telling him that he believes in him, but at the same time, he's going to be hard on him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to appreciate that immensely. And I think that's going to pay off. And listen, this is not a team. I know everybody's down on the Cardinals. I know they were 4-13. Like, they were not very good. Okay. I get it. But it's not like it's not salvageable.
Right.
You know, they were 1 year removed from the playoffs, and they should have been a top seed in those playoffs, but they fell apart. I have confidence that things will turn around. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be a top seed again next year or anything like that. I'm not saying that they'll even make the playoffs, but I think you'll see a noticeable difference in the production and the effort that is played with across the board and the lack of mistakes. There were so many mental errors last year led by Kyler Murray, and I think those are going to be eliminated quickly.
What's Jonathan Gannon's coaching staff going to look like? We've already seen some reports of who they're requesting to talk to. We've got a great graphic breaking it down as of right now. Coordinator requests, offensive coordinator, somebody that our guy Howard Balzer read his great work at gophnx.com and reported along with Gannon. Drew Petzing, quarterback's coach from the Cleveland Browns, is probably the leader in the clubhouse to be the next OC and work, hand in hand with Kyler Murray. You talk about footwork with Kyler Murray. This is a guy in Petzing who challenged Deshaun Watson this season as he returned from all the off-the-field issues to fix his footwork. And he at the beginning, it was one of those things where he struggled, but then he got better and better as he kind of knocked the rust off. And that's a testament to Petzing. He's expected to be interviewing today, I think, via Zoom. You got Drew Terrell, who's a local product. He went to Hamilton High School, won 2 championships with the Huskies out there in Chandler, went to Stanford. He's a rising candidate for head coach. He's the Washington Commanders wide receivers coach. He helped develop guys like Scary Terry McLaurin. You got Jahan Dotson, who had a great first season as a first-round pick from Penn State. Troy Walters, interesting name, out of Cincinnati. So Cincinnati thought that their coaching staff was going to be intact. Not so fast. Troy Walters, a guy who developed Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, some impressive young wide receivers. Troy Walters, he's interviewing. And then Joel Thomas, running backs coach for the New Orleans Saints. He's a guy in his mid-40s that since he joined the Saints in the Big Easy in 2015, that's a group that has the most rushing touchdowns since 2015, and Thomas has been a part of that. I mean, it helps that you have Alvin Kamara and you have a guy like Mark Ingram who can kind of cash in, but Joel Thomas, part of the more decorated groups at the running back position. Then your defensive coordinators, you got Dave Borgonzi, spent 1 season as the linebackers coach for the Bears. He worked for Eberflus there in Chicago. He followed him from Indianapolis, where you had Indianapolis in back-to-back seasons. They had top 10 performances against the run in the pass game. And, he helped develop one of the top inside linebackers in the league, and formerly known as Darius Leonard, now Shaquille Leonard. And now you've got DeMarcus Covington, Saul, who's the most interesting guy in the group.
Yep.
New England Patriots defensive line coach.
Very highly regarded.
He was the DC at the Senior Bowl, 33 years old. He has a relationship with Monti Ossenfort. And as far as the Patriots, it was quarterback issues and offensive issues this year. Still one of the more highly decorated groups and units in the league defensively. DeMarcus Covington, a very interesting candidate for the Cardinals on the defensive coordinator.
For sure. What you're seeing is a theme here of young, energetic coaches. Man, this league is changing. Mm-hmm. It is changing right in front of our eyes. It used to be just the old guards, retreads over and over and over again, and you're hoping that you got the right puzzle pieces together. And now what you're seeing is thirsty, hungry young guys that are up and coming in the game. They study the game. They're energetic. They're passionate. But more than anything else, they can relate to today's players. They understand how to communicate with today's players, and they understand how to get across to them. If I had to pick one or the other, the thing for me right now, it would be between Petzing and Walters, and which one do you want most? And I think right now, if you're looking at Kyler Murray and some of the things that you're trying to get accomplished, you're looking at Drew Petzing being the offensive coordinator because you need that quarterback stuff fixed and figured out. And then maybe, hey, there's nothing to say that any of these 4 couldn't also be on the staff as well if they're not the offensive coordinator. And same thing with DC. DeMarcus Covington, I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about him already. I know he's an up-and-coming star in the coaching ranks, highly regarded. Obviously, Monti Ossenfort has a relationship with him, and he thinks he's, definitely a prime candidate. You want superstars on your coaching staff. Yeah. We've seen this time and again. The superstar coaching staffs are what win Super Bowls. And 10 years from now, if you're looking at this Cardinals team and they're successful, you're going to look at the Gannon coaching tree, and you're going to see all these guys that were a part of that coaching tree. This is a great opportunity for all of them. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see the youth movement in this Cardinals organization on the coaching side. I think it's a great thing.
It is great. I mean, it's better to get in on the ground level on some of these guys. far often do those work out more than just kind of going and kicking the tires on some retreads, right? To bring guys who had been offensive player callers that had kind of fallen out of favor of previous franchises, and that happened for a reason, and they kind of find like a resurgence with another team. Sometimes it works if you have the right personnel and, of course, the right coaching staff that can put you in a position to do that. We have rumored over there a couple other candidates. Mike Zimmer, of course, who spent so many years as a defensive coordinator and a head coach in this league. That's somebody that Howard Balzer said could be tied to this organization. And then Nick Rawlis, the linebackers coach for the Eagles, who is 29 years old, and he is actually a hot commodity right now for some of the few openings remaining. But to your point, with a guy like Drew Terrell, wide receivers coach coming over for the Commanders, you've got Eric Bieniemy, who just signed on as the OC in Washington. I mean, Terrell could be looking for work potentially. I mean, it could just be like what's going on here, where somebody wants to blow out the old guys for his own guys. And when you got Terrell, if you're talking to him, nothing says that Monty and Jonathan Gannon can't say, hey, you're probably not there yet at 31 years old, but what do you think about continuing as a wide receivers coach here for us or some other capacity? And you can kind of come home and continue your ascension as a potential coordinator, NFL coach.
Yeah, for sure. It's again, you can't lose with this opportunity,
right?
And so I think that's the thing that you're really getting at, and all these guys have an opportunity to really establish their own brand, if you will, at a higher level. Getting promoted to a different position is always a good thing in the NFL. You want to see career progression, just like you want to do in your real life, or our real lives, I should say. So I think this is great. And the one thing that I would say is Zimmer. This is what I like about his potential role, is that he wouldn't be the DC necessarily. He would just be like an advisor or an assistant, which I think you need that, right? You need some of that. Like, great coaches understand their own weaknesses. And I think Jonathan Gannon could always use some backup in terms of like, am I seeing this right?
Right.
Do I have this picture correct? And that's why Zimmer intrigues me very much. He was rumored to be going to Colorado to help out Dion and that staff. But if he can come here instead and really help out this organization, that's a win-win all the way around.
Right. Actual legit connections between Zimmer and Gannon. He worked on his staff in Minnesota for many years. Let's check out the chat. You guys crushing it. Joel saying Covington with Zimmer as a senior assistant would be nice.
That would be nice.
Chef's kiss to that. Jordan P saying Petzing. You've got Moana saying, I just want the best coaches. No doubt about it. I think that's what everybody wants. And kind of to Michael Bidwell's coach at the beginning of this search, or his point at the beginning of the search, is sometimes the biggest names aren't the best coaches. And that's what you're seeing here. Any kind of like thought as far as seeing these young up and comers that the price tag is low after Michael Bidwell just had to, sign off on a bunch of guys leaving and having to pay for Cliff and Vance Joseph?
I definitely think that there's a bit of a Rihanna vibe to all this, right? Rihanna does the Super Bowl. She doesn't get paid, but she wants the exposure.
Right.
She wants the exposure because it's valuable exposure. Same thing with these coaches. They're young, they're hungry, and they understand that maybe they're not going to get paid premium dollar, but it's the opportunity. And the opportunity will lead to something bigger down the road. So do you want to take that risk? Do you want to take that jump? And I think a lot of these coaches will. They want that title promotion. They want that opportunity to show exactly what they're all about. And I'm excited for that. I think, again, you're talking about, this is the crazy thing about the NFL overall, right? And college and pro. There are so many coaches. Like the fact that any one of us could sit here and be like, oh, that's such a trash hire. We don't know shit. Right. Like you could sit there all day long. Somebody could win the press conference. I remember Steve Wilkes after training camp. And I remember Dave Pasch. And I love Dave Pasch. I'm not trying to bash him. I do love Dave Pasch.
Some Pasch receipts.
But he said, and I quote, this is one of the most impressive coaching staffs put together that I've ever seen. How'd that work out?
Not well.
So it doesn't matter what you think. It's how they perform and how they can communicate what their message is to these players. That's coaching 101. You could be the most basic coach, but if you can get through to a player and get him to understand even the most basic fundamental thing and get him to play at a high level, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Scheme or whatever, doesn't matter. We saw Vance Joseph, a very complicated scheme apparently because rookies couldn't even get on the field. That didn't matter.
Right.
It didn't matter. And you cost yourself development. Make it simple. And if guys can play at a high level, that's all that matters.
Right.
And that's why I like Jonathan Gannon, because he said it doesn't matter what my schemes are or my philosophy is, because each year is a different year. And you don't know what personnel you're going to have. And you can't bank on the same shit every single year, because coaches will figure you out. So I love that perception. And I think these guys, because they're young and they're adaptable, will be able to carry across that message.
Yeah, Mark hitting it. Yeah, absolutely right. Love the PHNX merch. Saul wearing one of the hoodies. I'm wearing one of the hoodies, the camo hoodie. You can check it out, of course, phnxlocker.com. But it's a great point. I mean, it's like an all-star cast that they broke the budget for, and the script sucks, right? I mean, it just doesn't work out at the end of the day. Here's something that works out for everybody. Hitting up Four Peaks in Tempe. Or if you can't go to H Street in Tempe, going to the brewery there and getting some great food, enjoying some atmosphere and some great beers while watching some games like the NBA All-Star Weekend this weekend. You can go to your grocery store. You can find Kilt Lifter. You can find all their great beers there. The Joy Wow Wheat. It's the #1 wheat beer in the state of Arizona. You can't go wrong with any of their IPAs. You got Raj, you got Hazy. You got so many options, something for every beer drinker out there. If you're not a beer drinker, you can go just enjoy the great food. You can enjoy all the fun going on at 4P.
You can also enjoy the outdoor patio, which we'll be out there at next Wednesday for our last Wednesdays of the month. That's what we do every single last Wednesday of the month. We go out there, we drink, we have our shows out there. It's a fun time. You can come kick it. Shit, you might even come join us on the show if you really want to. Just come and hang.
Drop just hot take after hot take about this Cardinals coaching staff, but you can do it while enjoying some great beer. Also, you got the speed, you got the adrenaline. As far as the beer can derby going down, February 25th, Four Peaks, H Street Pub in Tempe. You've got, you can go get your kits right now. You can pick it up and you can enter to win the fastest beer can in the Valley. Sign up through fourpeaks.com/events. That's fourpeaks.com/events. You will not regret it. I know a bunch of people here at PHNX want to make their own entry. We want to do different, like maybe different beats, Cardinals versus Suns versus Coyotes versus the producers. Who would win that? I don't know. I don't know if I trust my guy Johnny to put together the best beer can car, but we'll put our best effort forward. Got to be 21 years or older to enjoy, of course, the beer, but you don't have to enjoy the fun and the food there at Four Peaks, but you do enjoy it responsibly. Also want to talk about DraftKings. DraftKings over the weekend, you're going to get all the action you want as far as NBA All-Star Weekend, and then beyond that, DraftKings, of course, America's #1 sports betting app. You can check it out. You have to. You got so much going on. Download and sign up using the code PHNX. New customers can bet $5. That's it on NBA to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Use that code PHNX. Get the minimum age, eligibility restrictions apply. You got to see the show notes for more details, but so much going on this week.
Did you do your DraftKings pick of the week already?
I haven't done that.
Well, I got one for you.
Okay,
if you
please.
Want. Colin Morikawa to win this weekend.
On the links?
Bank. Yep, absolutely. Right. Colin Morikawa.
Where is the PGA this week?
They're at Riviera Country Club in nice Los Angeles.
Are you watching Full Swing?
I am. That is fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
the only thing is I can't relate to these golfers at all. They're just so fucking rich.
I mean, the private jet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we gotta go play in Oklahoma this weekend. I live in Florida. They take a 50-minute flight on their private jet to go play the course, and then they come back for dinner. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Even I saw Brooks Koepka was wearing some dunks, and I'm like, those look nice. And I look up how much they are online.
Yeah,
I'm like, I can't even.
That's a mortgage payment.
It's still great. You know, as far as you want some behind the scenes of the PGA, you can check that out. But also check out the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You got Saul's DraftKings pick of the week. Take it to the bank. Take so many different bets to the bank with the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Of course, you want to use that code PHNX. All right, we continue this conversation. So I saw this on Twitter today. It was via a Detroit Lions radio personality, and he wanted to kind of get into the Lions potentially moving up from 6 because that's where they stand with the Los Angeles Rams pick right now. And he said this for our podcast listeners: Draft Clarity. Is anyone actually excited about the Lions options at 6? Why not trade up to 3 and guarantee yourself one of the elite defenders or quarterback? Feels like a 4-player tier, and the Lions have the means to make a move. 6 pick overall plus 2 seconds are worth the 3rd overall pick. Plus, they also have a pick in the teens. I believe it's 18th overall. So as we sit here, Arizona Cardinals, it seems like the Bears are just destined to trade out of #1, and you're going to go quarterback. and whoever trades up to 1, and then Houston at 2. Arizona Cardinals will have, for the picking, the top 2 non-quarterbacks to pick from, and Jalen Carter, who Brad Holmes reportedly likes a lot and wants to kind of cap off his rebuild there in Detroit with, or Will Anderson Jr. Would you, if you're the Cardinals, be open for business to potentially move down the 6th and then some extra draft capital, but that would cost you your chance at both Anderson and Carter?
I believe the Lions have 2 first-round picks.
Yes.
Yeah, for 2 first-round picks, I might be entertained on that for sure. Because there is some other talent that is down low. Now, you're talking about potential generational talent in Jalen Carter and Anderson, but there's also some very good edge talent as well as you move down the line. So I could be talked into it is what I would say. I don't know if I'm completely on board, but I could be talked into it because, like I said, there's some good talent out there.
Here's why I would accept the Arizona Cardinals doing it right now. And I know that this is punting on the ability, as you said, generational type talent in Carter and Anderson Jr. Is KR Gordon 08 saying, do not trade the pick. Mike Maris is saying, no, come on, at least open your mind, because not only does Monti Ossenfort and his new assistant GM, Dave Sears, have 20 plus years of experience of scouting and working in as far as the player personnel department, so does your head coach. So does Jonathan Gannon. He started as a scout. He knows what he's looking for. Yeah. So if he looks down the draft board and he says, look, we can afford to drop 3 picks, go from 3 to 6, plus, I agree with you. You probably don't take the 2 2s. You take that extra first-round pick that Detroit has, their own pick, I think that's 18th, and you can get another player. I mean, this is not just one player away from a rebuild. If you can get maybe like a Paris Johnson, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, or a Miles Murphy, the edge out of Clemson, or
Tyree Wilson, Keon White, like there's some good edge rushers in this draft.
At the tackle position. I mean, you want to build around Kyler Murray. If that's what Jonathan Gannon is preaching, why not get some O-linemen in there? I mean,
yes. And on top of that, there's also some good DB depth. And once you get down to like 18, right. So you can shore up your defense to a certain degree with multiple draft picks. I know everybody's like, don't do it. Now, what I will say is this, though, because of what Bo just said, Monti Ossenfort, Patriots organization. What do the Patriots do better than every other team in the NFL? Scouting. Yep. They are constantly finding players that are undrafted, developing them into incredible players over and over and over again. And then you got Jonathan Gannon. Listen, if anybody's going to understand the magnitude and the power that a front four could have, it would be Jonathan Gannon, because that's exactly what he had this year. So if he looks at Jalen Carter and he looks at Will Anderson and he says, okay, we can't pass this up, I trust that.
Sure.
But if he looks at those guys and says, I think we can find other talent that's just a smidge different and we can get more value for it, then I trust that too, because of who these guys are. If it was Steve Keim, I would say, don't you fucking try to trade out of the number 3 spot. You sit your ass there and you take Jalen Carter or Will Anderson.
Jordan P. saying Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, Miles Murphy out of Clemson, nowhere near the prospects that Carter and Anderson are. Sure, like we agree with that. I think that it is, as far as the top-notch prospects here, there's a significant drop-off. But when you're looking at the Cardinals right now, you see that 4 defensive linemen from John Gannon's Eagles team are free agents that you could be players for, because Philly's going to have to back up the Brinks cart truck to Jalen Hurts. You know, I think that you could kind of retool this defense through free agency and also with getting multiple picks. But look, I also agree with what Saul says. If Gannon's like, hey, Anderson's a dog, and he's that's what they're looking for. Anderson's an absolute dog. We can't move out of here. Or Jalen Carter's the generational type talent. He's going to be Aaron Donald once he retires in this division. Then you say, we're going to stick and pick. It's that simple.
I do love that comment by Mike Maris. He says, I'm imagining Johnny trying to call into the podcast right now.
He's
in line in the teacups. No ACC players. Well, he won't like Big 12 players either if we try to take one from Texas fucking Tech. I promise you that. He's probably losing his shit while he's waiting for Rise of the Resistance. So, yeah, I get it.
He's on Guardians of the Galaxy and it drops, and then his phone flies
He's
up.
Like, I'm trying to call him right now. Oh, man, I love it. But again, like, I do have a sense of security with this group in terms of their scouting and really their scouting acumen.
You have to trust them until they make you not, right? Until they make the bad moves that make you say, hey, like this is not the way that they're going to be their strength moving forward. But just all the scouting background that they have from their front office now to their coaching staff, it's really impressive. And if they decide, hey man, this might Paul AZK1 just saying Bo. I mean, come on. I mean, Monty said it himself in his introductory press conference. They're open for business. They're going to look at every avenue, as they should. They went 4-13 last season. It wasn't just Kyler didn't play the best football and that they faced a bunch of injuries. It was there wasn't much depth on this roster, and they need to do it. And the way you can do that is through your assets. And, Nick Moreno from CHGO Bears wrote a great article today about DeAndre Hopkins and the potential, should the Bears trade for him now that they figured out, since he got suspended, he lost his no trade clause. It voided. He couldn't have a say where he goes. Like, you could get some nice picks from the Bears as well. So you can get draft capital that way. But I don't think you should limit yourself on where you can create more assets from your current assets.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the beauty of what you might have at OC, or the potential of having other guys come into your system like a Terrell, who could come in here and coach wide receivers up and get them to really maximize their own potential like he has done in Cincinnati. And so if you do that and you get rid of D-Hop, and you build on Rondale Moore, and I know we haven't seen much from Rondale Moore because he's been injured often, but if you're able to maximize that potential, and you're able to get another first, maybe second round pick for a D-Hop and maybe some other assets, then you're talking, and I think that will calm the fears of everybody else out there in terms of like not trading down out of the 3 spot. Listen, these guys are going to be at the combine. They're going to see these guys up front and up close. And they're going to see them run the 40s. They're going to see them do the bench press, the whole 9 yards, which is a spectacle in itself, let me tell you. And you're going to be able to hear firsthand why these guys should be first-round picks and see firsthand, in addition to the tape that you've already seen, right? They are generational talents on paper, but you just never know how things are going to work out. We had Andre Wadsworth as the number 3 overall pick back in 1998, and he was a surefire, like, can't miss prospect. Right. And unfortunately for him, he battled turf toe and knee injuries and all these other things that just really cost him his career. And it just didn't work out. So you never know. There's no guarantee in any of this, but you want to take the pick with the most certainty. And that's what I think everybody in the chat is saying. And I agree with that. However, you got to look at all your options, and you just never want to say no to an option.
Right. You can fall in love with these guys all you want. I mean, I can look at the 2022 draft and we can find guys that you would say were surefire, that, had decent seasons. I mean, you had guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Sauce Gardner ball out, no doubt about it. But then you look at guys like Thibodeau, who dealt with injuries. You can never predict that. Trayvon Walker was the number 1 overall pick, and, he had a very subpar season at 3.5 sacks. I mean, are we saying they're busts? Not by any stretch, but if you're looking for guys that are going to be impact makers from day one, it's going to take some time. You look at the rest of the top 10, you've got some guys that you have to be patient with. And if you're patient, I mean, this is a long game with the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, as much as we expect with the ability of high draft picks and cap space for them to kind of turn this thing around, armed with like good coaching and development, that this rebuild could be expedited, sure, but you gotta be able to kind of risk and be confident in what your background is and where your strengths are, and drafting and evaluating talent and developing it. That should be the new era for Arizona Cardinals football, and that excites me. So I'm if they decide, hey, this is something that's going to be the best move for the franchise in this draft, I'm going to trust that, but. It's also
there's also no guarantee,
right?
I mean, the Bears could very well take Jalen Carter or Anderson, number 1 overall.
What the betting odds are, like the Cardinals were favored to get Sean Payton at one point. It's like that only goes so far, right? Yeah. It's also to kind of incite public betting. That's the number 1 thing. What's Wade Millard saying here? Bo, Johnny, and Saul should give us Cardinals 7-round mock draft trades if you want. Absolutely, okay. That's coming your way. Okay. It is. With the Super Bowl in the rearview mirror and us heading to Indy in less than 2 weeks, we are absolutely going to ramp up our draft season because we own the offseason over here at PHNX Sports. It's the only place you can get local coverage out there at all the big events, including the Combine in Indianapolis. Also, it's a place where it's nice to come home and kind of unwind, and the best place to do that is one that's you got furniture from More Furniture set up at. We, since More Furniture came on as a partner, I look like a smart person suggesting to my wife, hey, we need to check out morefurniture.com for our living room and our bedroom and my kids' room. And now our house is looking great. And you can do the same for yourself. Check it out, what they got going on. The President's Day sale going on this weekend. You can save up to 25%, and you can get a little cheaper white glove delivery. Already very affordable, but you're going to save yourself some cash as well. White glove delivery, you'll make the order, they deliver it to you. They get rid of all the packing materials, they put the furniture together, and they put it exactly where you want. You can dial in your feng shui in your living room, your dining room, your bedrooms. Do it more with morefurniture.com, the best furniture in the valley when you head to morefurniture.com. Also on 44th Street in McDowell. Also going on this weekend, great place to go check out all the NBA All-Star Weekend festivities. Take in all the dunk contest and the three-point competition. Do that at Octane Raceway. It's a great place. You can kind of fuel your own competitive energies by getting out there on the track. You can go bowling. You can use the arcade. You can hang out. Do whatever you want. But Octane Raceway Mavericks in Scottsdale is an unbelievable place to hang out this weekend and any day of the week. They got specials all throughout the week. How about on Mondays? They got $15 unlimited fun pass, 50% off taco trios on Taco Tuesday. Wednesday's Winning Wednesday, half price arcade games all day long. Big Bucket Thursday, you can get a $20 bucket of beer. And then Friday night, tonight, it's Friday Trivia Night, rotating drink specials from 8 to 10. And then over the weekend, 50% off signature bowling before noon. You get the family in there before noon, and you can save 50% on their bowling. Book some fun this spring. Headed out there, maybe the talking stick. It's right there at Octane Raceway, Mavericks, kart racing, virtual reality, laser tag, axe throwing, bowling, arcades. Check them out, octaneraceway.com and mavericks.com to learn more. Hanging out here, wrapping up a busy week here at PHNX Cardinals. And we'll kind of put the draft fear aside. It was reported before the show, Josina Anderson, who's been dialed into this Arizona Cardinals.
Friend of the program.
That's right. We're probably seeing her in Indy. Saw her out there at opening night at the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago. But she reported that another coach is exiting the Cardinals staff after VJ yesterday, who's interviewing for the DC job at his old stomping grounds in Denver. Sean Jefferson, probably the most respected guy on the offensive side of the football. Sean Jefferson, the wide receivers coach, is leaving the organization after probably meeting with Jonathan Gannon yesterday, as all the coaches on the staff did after his post-game press conference. So when we talk about a guy like Drew Terrell, wide receivers coach for the Commanders, there's an opening here for the Cardinals. And you hate to see a guy like Jefferson go. Maybe he lands where his son Van Jefferson is in LA.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good landing spot for him, especially since they just lost their tight ends coach to Carolina and Frank Reich's staff as their offensive coordinator. So pretty interesting. I mean, there's still a lot of moves to be done for the Cardinals, even though they finally ended this coaching search officially, earlier this week.
Yeah, I'm not heartbroken over Sean Jefferson leaving.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, Van Jefferson. I don't.
No, you're right with Sean.
No, yeah, Sean. Sorry, I get those two mixed up. What? All right, I'm gonna be a dick. What did he do?
I mean, as far as developing, you can't point to anybody. I mean, Christian Kirk
consistently started off strong and faded down the stretch. And so it wasn't that.
It took him leaving to really explode.
Yeah, then he had a great year in Jacksonville.
And Rondell Moore, he couldn't stay healthy. That's not on Sean.
No,
but at the same time, there wasn't like, hey, you can point to him, and that's the success story.
Yeah,
for Sean Jefferson.
There was just. There's nothing wow about any of these receivers,
Mm-hmm.
and even the ones that you thought were going to develop into high level, like Antoine Wesley, right? He got injured, of course, but it just felt like Wesley has the measurables to be able to do more than he did. And, he just was never able to pull that out of him. And so it's not a big loss to me. I think that there's other guys out there that Mike Morris, he developed Andy Isabella. Yeah, he did develop him right out of the league. So I just, it's not a big deal to me. I think that this is something that's probably good for both parties. And the Cardinals need to get guys in here that have a thirst for this game. And I'm not saying he didn't, but they understand what the development process is like and how to get guys from A to Z.
I agree with Jalen Blair. Yeah, Greg Dortch developed under him. Sure. Yeah, we'll give him that. We'll give him his flowers there. But I think he's very reminiscent of Vance Joseph, to where He was very well respected. He was a great ambassador for the Cardinals as far as when he would get up there and he would talk to media and how he handled himself in front of players. But as far as the results, to your point, they just weren't there.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been there, and it's not gonna say we're not gonna say, hey, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. But it's like, hey, thanks for your service. Let's see who else can get in here.
But also, I also feel like that there's a part of this that is on him in terms of, let's talk about Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch barely saw the field in the first 6 to 8 games of this season.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he was an 8th or 9th target when
Right.
there was only 4 guys out there sometimes. And to me, that's on your receiver coach to really go to bat for certain guys and say, you need to see this guy. And you need to put him in the game because he's balling. We need ballers out there. And so, yeah, he's going to take the L on that one for me.
Right. I mean, to see Greg Dortch from OTAs to mini camp to training camp to when it was live ammunition and every time he got an opportunity, he made plays. When Rondale Moore came back, the fact that his position coach, maybe he did, but there was no reports of him saying, hey, we need to get this guy out here. Even though he's not a second-round pick, he's the guy that's making plays. Now, Cardinals update in the chat. It's the first time I've seen Cardinals update since our Pat McAfee interview, and we were taking strays from Pat McAfee because of Cardinals update, thinking we were him. He's got some insight. Yeah, he's absolutely right. As far as he pointed out the Albert Breer report, and I'm looking at the tweet right now. So Breer's saying that Arizona's defensive coordinator interview with Bears linebackers coach Dave Berganzi got moved up to tonight, and it'll start shortly. Cards' interest is very real here. Jonathan Gannon and Berganzi, they know each other well back from their Colts days. Eagles linebackers coach Nick Rawlis, who we mentioned earlier in the show, is another prime candidate for the job. So, and then we mentioned the defensive line coach DeMarcus Covington from New England. So a lot of like rising stars here who are highly coveted. I'm sure Eberflus in Chicago wants to keep a guy he's worked with closely for the last couple of seasons, but it's really interesting. But it's good to hear that the Cardinals, now that they have their coach in place, are acting with a sense of urgency because it didn't feel like it was there before.
Yeah, I love the fact, like Berganzi, the one thing that I do like about him was that he was in charge of that Colts linebacker unit 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that linebacker unit was one of the best in the NFL. Like they were solid across the board.
Yeah.
They surpassed expectations with that unit. And so that makes me feel good, especially when you're talking about guys like Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins and what you're going to be able to get out of those two guys. So there's not one candidate here that I'm like, oh no, stay away. You know, I think they're all solid candidates. And so I think anybody should be excited for any one of these guys to be a part of this organization.
The weekend is drawing closer, and with that, I'm popping up the Underdog Fantasy app. I'm looking at the NBA. You've got the Pick'em for the All-Star Weekend coming up. You can go higher, lower on some great things as far as the Rising Stars game. You've got, of course, the 3-point competition. You want to get in all the action this weekend, and you don't want to be tied to a season-long fantasy league. Check out Underdog Fantasy. It's got everything you want, and it approaches daily fantasy sports differently. Draft a team of your own against 5 of your friends, and the highest scoring squads from that night can win some cold, hard cash. Draft 6 NBA players, no positional limits, and you can put together just an absolute squad. I had some fun. We, of course, did it during the NFL season, but you can continue on now that the NFL year is in the rearview mirror with the NBA, with MLB, with the NHL. Do it with Underdog Fantasy. Continue to just rule your friends in fantasy sports by using Underdog Fantasy. It's easy to get started. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app. Sign up today with the promo code PHNX, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. All right.
Oh.
Saw an interesting thing. I saw you retweeted it. It was, as we wrap things up, Jalen Rose, of course, former NBA player, said that you got to spend at least $100 on your haircut.
No, man. No.
You were just hanging out with James Conner. You guys share a barber.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way in hell I picture you as the guy that's spending that much money on
listen, it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap.
No, look,
it's crazy to me. So listen, man. And Sean and I have had this discussion because we're the only brothers here in the house. Like it used to be like if you charged like more than $20, that fucking fade better be tight It better be the best haircut you've ever received. And now we're talking about 50, 60, 70, 80.
Right.
And Jalen Rose throwing out $100. Well, it's easy to throw out $100 when you're making millions of dollars every year. No, that's bullshit.
No way in hell I'm paying
No way. No way. Not happening. Like, yeah,
Wow,
I
I
mean,
don't know
like
about
for
that.
me, I go 65 because I got that like white and black hair and I got strands and all wacky shit, right? So it's a little bit different, but yeah, I'm not paying $100. No.
But here's what I'll say. Don't go out there and spend $10 on your haircut either. I think that there is a happy medium. Yes. I was taught that lesson as a young man. That, I mean, it's on your head. Your hair is on top of your head. And if you go and you get that Mark Davis / Lloyd Christmas cut, did I see Mark Davis shave his head bald?
Oh, I didn't see
It's about time. It's been long overdue.
Oh
he had that pumpkin pie haircut thing, and it was not a good look. The
one thing about it is like, this is where I think a lot of barbers go wrong, and I think this is why they're starting to charge more, is the good barbers will not only cut your hair, but they'll style it too. And they understand like what you want to do on a day-to-day basis with your haircut. Whereas before, we're talking about like you go a 1 or a 2 on top, you get it nice and faded. You get some guys want to get the wave, so they just want to get crispy on top. Like, it's cool, it's fine, but it's not for everybody,
right?
And you can't be charging those kind of crazy prices if you're just going to shave some dude like bald and just line them up. Like, that's not happening. So yeah, you get what you pay for. And not only, so Nicole Renee's my girl down in Tucson. She's the best in the business. I love her to death. And James has her come all the way up to Phoenix. And I told James last week,
this is name basis with James.
And I was like, James, man, like when she comes up, like, holler at your boy so I don't have to go all the way down to Tucson to get a haircut. He laughed and walked away.
Oh.
I'm like, bro, like, that's fine, whatever.
Right.
But Damian Anderson,
DA.
His brother cuts, and he cuts out there in I think it's off of Alma School and Chandler Boulevard, I want to say, somewhere around there. He does a really nice job, and he cut my hair last time, so check him out. He's dope.
All right, $65 Cardinals update ? Just keeping his finger on that button across the board. Saul ain't paying $100. He's paying $95. $25 at most from Michael Evans. Mike Mayer is confirming that Mark Davis is bald. Jordan P saying $30 is the sweet spot. Now, is that after tip? Because then I don't know,
man.
Tip's
going to take you over 50 if you're good.
Yeah, and then Mike A saying $100 can get yourself the equivalent to do.
Hey man, like
on your own damn fade. Well, I mean.
First of all, clippers are not $100 if you get good ones,
right?
So that's a lie.
James does like PHNX Jordan P. He does.
Okay,
just doesn't want to share his barber when he comes to town. When she comes to town. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. Participate in the chat. You guys have killed it all week. We continue as the Arizona Cardinals. They haven't made any hires as far as the coordinators go. Anytime news breaks, of course, you want to keep it subscribed, and you got your alerts set up here on PHNX_sports on YouTube. Of course, you're following along on all the socials at PHNX_Cardinals. For Saul Bookman, I'm Bo Brock. Thank you to Emma behind the 1s and 2s, producing us up, making us sound and look so good. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Johnny's back next week, so no show Monday. We're back on Tuesday. Enjoy your weekend.